On today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have the first 2 rounds of a Dynasty rookie mock draft with landing spots. I'm your host, Shaun. I'm joined by my co-host, my good friend, my fellow knower of ball, Aidan. It's kind of rough making NFL content during the first weekend of March Madness. And if you're out there watching this, you're a sicko. Good for you. You cannot quit the NFL fantasy football. But Aidan, man, how you doing today?
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. You mentioned March Madness, weekend one. Maybe someone's
Pretty big weekend.
got 2 screens up. We got a little rookie mock on the phone, and you got the quad box on your TV. So if you're a sicko and you're enjoying this, welcome to the program here. We are pretty excited to talk rookies today. We've talked about them a little bit, but this is kind of probably like the biggest scale. I'd say we've talked about them, right, Shaun?
Yeah, I would say so. We're going to talk through 24 rookies today. We're going to do a pick by pick for the first 2 rounds of a 12-team Dynasty rookie mock draft. This is going to be Superflex, tight end premium. It's the good stuff. This is the stuff people care about. And we're going to pull up Sleeper. We're going to go through each pick. We're going to talk about why we like this guy. We're going to talk about where this guy's projected to go, especially for the first round prospects. And then outside of that, maybe play a little matchmaker. See, like, hey, which team could fit this player, etc. But man, I'm pumped, dude. It's gonna be a great way to talk these rookies, and always excited to talk ball with you on a Friday afternoon. But Aidan, I'm sure this is probably somebody's first time they've clicked on one of our thumbnails and decided to dive in, take a look at our channel. What should the good people be expecting at home if it's their first time watching us?
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the program. Welcome to the Mean Team, as we call it here on the channel. We're excited to have you. We keep it pretty light. We keep it pretty fun here. It's more just like banter with your boys in the garage. So, we're going to go 24 picks here, rounds 1 and 2. We're going to go through, me and Shaun are going to alternate, pick 1-1, 1-2, etc. Who we each like, where they're getting mocked right now in terms of like a real NFL mock draft in terms of their landing spot. So we're going to say, what do we like? What do we don't like about these guys? Potential landing spots. Why are we picking them over maybe player X or Y? So, should be light, should be pretty fun. It's going to become a lot more firm, obviously, as we get closer to the draft, but it's still good to be aware of what's going on right now. As maybe you're trading picks, maybe you're trading your 106, 107. Like, it's good to know who's going to be there potentially to understand, like what's the value of the pick you're trying to move. So it's never too early to be understanding kind of where these players are falling. But yeah, we're excited to have you here, and welcome to the program.
Oh, you ready to do this, man? You want to dive in?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get Sleeper up. We are going to go through, again, the first 2 rounds. If you want 2 more rounds, you're going to have to wait till May. There's no way we're doing this until we know where all these guys are playing. But, Aidan, I'm going to give you the first pick. We'll just
no
go
brainer.
pick by pick here. Yeah, who you taking?
It's Jeanty. Yeah, Jeanty's got to be one. I'd find it hard not to take him 1-1, just given the profile where he figures to get drafted. This is a guy that's probably going to get drafted, I don't know, pick 12 at the latest, but it's looking like he's going to go as early as like 5 or 6. So, this is the guy that's going to come in right away and be a workhorse, 3-down running back, uber productive in college, multiple seasons. So don't overthink this one. If, maybe you're super set at running back and like maybe you're leaning quarterback or something, like just trade back a couple of picks. Like, I wouldn't overthink this one at 1-1. This, there really should not be any debate. Some of these other ones we get into, I think you can make a pretty hard case for other picks. But Shaun, is there really any case to pick anyone but Jeanty at 1 in all your eyes?
No, I mean, I think he's the best running back prospect that we've seen in a long time. I mean, he's basically in the Todd Gurley, CMC, Saquon tier of prospects at the running back position. JJ Zacharyson over at late round, he has his Zap rookie model, and the only guys that have cleared 99.2, Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs. So pretty elite prospect
player.
in Ashton Jeanty. He is consensus right now mocked to the Las Vegas Raiders. I could see it. Pete Carroll has taken running backs in the first round during his tenure with the Seahawks, and he's taken running backs in the second round when he didn't even need them. So I could definitely see Carroll taking Jeanty. Do you think the Raiders take Jeanty though, and do you like this spot for him?
My
No
bias, my bias, I'd like him to
Bias
slide
says
4
Bears.
more. I'd love him to slide to 10, but I think this is a good pick. You know, Pete Carroll has a history of drafting running backs high. We know that with him. He did it in Seattle multiple times. Like you mentioned, like we've talked about, like their offensive line actually isn't that bad. You know, Geno's a good quarterback. You've got a couple of pieces there at wideout. Like I think I'd rather, you know, nail your running back before you start kind of putting some other pieces around there in the passing offense, especially given that Geno's just going to be a stopgap anyways. So I do think it makes sense. Like, I think the Raiders want to run just like a ground and pound, you know, and then just tire you out on defense too, just kind of like, you know, old school football. And Jeanty would fit really well there. So I think it makes sense. I hope he doesn't go there. But I think for fantasy, it actually would work out pretty well.
Yeah, when you look at their team needs, running back, receiver, cornerback, tackle, D-line, edge.
Yep.
I mean, I guess they could take like an edge player. Maybe you can reach on a cornerback. But my whole thing with Jeanty is at some point you're just taking worse players than him. You know, like I get that he doesn't play the premium position. But it's just you're just taking worse players than Aidan. That's my whole take with Jeanty. Like with NFL teams, they're gonna want to take the best players. Like I get it, again, premium position, whatever. But I just feel like Jeanty at 6. There aren't better players in this draft than Jeanty at 6, in my opinion.
No, there's not.
Like Bears, Cowboys are all good too. I don't see him getting past 12. I don't
think so either.
surprised.
Yeah, I think Bears and Cowboys would be the last 2 teams. And I think if he even gets like down to 10, teams are going to move up too. Like teams will trade up as he starts to slide.
So consensus big board here on Sleeper has Tet McMillan is the second player off the board. Some people will throw out Travis Hunter potentially at this spot. I think though it's Omarian Hampton. I feel like I actually in this draft that we're mocking for, I do have this pick. And as it currently stands, Hampton would be my pick at number 2. He just has such an incredible profile for a running back prospect. Now, he's no Jeanty, but like again, in JJ Zacharyason's model, Jeanty's a 99. Omarian Hampton is a 97. Omarian Hampton's top comps in his model are Todd Gurley, Zeke Elliott, and Rashad Penny. Like that's his kind of like wide range of guys. He's 221 pounds. He's 6 feet tall. He's an elite producer as a pass catcher. He's got breakaway speed as evidenced by his 4.440. He jumped out of the gym. He had like a 9.9 RAS or something crazy, his relative athletic score. He's just checking every box, man. And really the only box he has left to check is the first round. And if he goes, you know, in the teens, like I just feel like it's an auto number 2 pick for me with Hampton. He's just everything that I want in a dynasty running back. So yeah, I'm stoked about Hampton. What about you though? Do you have any thoughts? Are you as high, maybe lukewarm? I don't think we've talked a lot of Hampton, have we?
We not too much. And I do like Hampton. I think he's gonna have the luxury of going to a better team too, which is pretty enticing. Did you already say where he's mocked there? I forget now.
The Broncos, consensus number 20th overall to the Broncos. I think that would be amazing. I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to be there at 20.
You don't think he makes it that far? Okay. Yeah, like you think the Bears could do it at 10. You got the Cowboys.
It could. So the reason I say this is that the last time we had Bijan Robinson, right, was the star running back prospect that people like he's going to go top 10. We also have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to go in the late first round. Gibbs' consensus that year was 28th overall to the Bengals, and then he ended up going 12th to the Lions. I could definitely see something similar happening with Hampton. I think Gibbs is a better prospect, but Hampton is it's similar company, man.
He's
like
good.
They're not like he's not getting blasted off the earth by Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's everything you need to hear, in my opinion, on Hampton. So Broncos would be a pipe dream. It would be the easiest click ever if he was in Sean Payton's offense. Considering that he's going to be the bell cow, just get a ton of receptions funneled to him. But yeah, I mean, it looks like Broncos is consensus, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears took him at 10. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys took him at 12. Other teams that potentially are in play, probably not the Dolphins, not the Colts, not the Falcons. I mean, I could see why he falls to 20 or 21 with with either the Broncos or Steelers, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone traded up to get him. He's like that talented of a prospect.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes. I would go a different way too, personally. But I like Hampton there. Like I had Hampton in my top. I think I had Hampton at 4, for me. But so at 2, I would go Cam Ward personally. Seems like one of the worst kept secrets right now in NFL circles that he's gonna go 1-1 in this year's NFL draft. If not, he's gonna go 2. He's gonna go 1 or 2, and he's going to start year 1 in the NFL. The athletic profile is just super exciting. I think he's still a bit raw, but he's got all the tools. He's got the arm. He's got the athleticism. He's going to step into a quarterback role right away. And in Superflex, man, like you cannot win. You cannot win without 2 quarterbacks. So I would like Cam Ward there. I think it really depends on like what does your roster look like at that point, whether you want to do like running back or quarterback. But if you're sitting with like one viable QB at the 2 or the 3 spot, like I absolutely love Cam Ward there. Just being able to slot him in and know you've got a solid starting QB with some rushing upside too is really exciting to him. So I think I prefer he goes. Man, I don't know if I'd rather him go 1 or 2.
I think he's going 1. I think he's going to 1.
It feels like he's going 1. Where do you think's the better spot, though, if you had to choose?
I think Tennessee's fine. Brian Callahan, they brought in a bunch of offensive linemen. They have Calvin Ridley. They got some guys. Like, there's no huge spotlight on Cam Ward either in Tennessee. Like, it's not a bad place for a rookie quarterback to land.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm just not super high on Cam Ward. I'm not really high on either of the top quarterbacks in this class, to be fair. But I definitely think Cam Ward has some good things going for him. But I feel like if like the tendencies that quarterbacks show when they become busts in the NFL, I feel like Cam Ward has a lot of those flags in his profile. So I'm not saying the guy's hold the ball forever. He's super aggressive, a lot of turnover worthy plays. If you were frustrated watching bad Caleb Williams tape this year, like Cam Ward does a lot of that. Like antsy, holding on the ball too long. And Caleb's a way better prospect than Cam Ward, in my opinion. I think Cam Ward, he's a cool player. He's got a ton of swag. He's easy to root for. I'm hoping he has a good NFL career, but I have some questions about him personally. But I think he's going to go 1 overall to Tennessee, and he's in my top 4. I had him 4. I had him 4 overall.
Nice.
On my big board. My next pick is Tet McMillan. I have Tet as my 3rd overall prospect in this draft for fantasy football. Tet is a really interesting prospect, and he's turned into this kind of divisive one, which I didn't really expect because watching Tet McMillan ball with his kind of, I would say, shitty quarterback, like I just feel like yeah, this guy's really good. His quarterback isn't that good. Like he's been dominant since he stepped on the field, and he's at that prototypical X receiver size. He's 6'4", he's 200, he's super fluid. I love how shifty he is in short area, which you don't see with tall receivers. I don't think he's super fast. He doesn't have that like Mike Evans top end speed, but he's really good after the catch for his size and his lankiness. So I like Tet McMillan a ton. He probably would have been like the 5th or 6th wide receiver off the board last year, though, just for context with how loaded last year's wide receiver class is. Maybe 4th at the highest range. But, yeah, I mean, no, dude, he probably would have been 5th. He would have been after BTJ.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
After BTJ. So, yeah, that's where
crazy.
I'm at with Tet.
Crazy,
yeah, that's how good last year's class was. Those top 4 were ridiculous. So, yeah, I think Tet's a good pick. I don't know if he will be a dominant alpha wide receiver 1 in the NFL, but he gets comped to T. Higgins a ton, who's been, one of the more elite producers at the wide receiver 2 position in the NFL. And I think Tet is definitely someone that could do that. Right now, his consensus is, I think it's just changed. I thought it's now the Saints over on Mock Draft Database, but a lot of people have been mocking him to the Panthers at 8. So that 8-9 range. Now, I've heard other people, Todd McShay is saying that he's going to go in the 20s. So I don't know where this shakes out with Tet. Some people think that Matthew Golden should be ahead of Tet. I just think that's insane, in my opinion.
No.
But I think Tet's going to be a top 10 pick, and I think the Panthers are a great fit. But what are your thoughts on Tet? Where do you think he lands?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. In a kind of wonky wide receiver class, like it does feel like he has the most potential to be like, like a true like alpha wide receiver one. Like I think there's safer wide receivers in this class personally. Like the next guy that I'm going to talk about at 5, like is my favorite wide receiver in the class. But in terms of like just like athletic profile and just like jumping off the chart to ape, like Tet checks all those boxes. And to your point, like he is going to be the first wide receiver off the board. The Saints would actually be pretty interesting. I think Chris Olave has just kind of been like, running by himself for years now. Like getting him like a true running mate. They still have their questions of QB with Carr and whatnot, but I think him and Olave would actually be really fun. And I like Carolina too. Like I think Carolina or the Saints would actually be a really nice fit for him. I think I like the Saints better just because like there's less pressure. Like you go to Carolina and like you're expected to be like a true absolute alpha number one there, whereas I think you kind of ease yourself into the NFL a bit more in New Orleans. But I like both fits. I like him. Like he tested well this week at his pro day. Like no one was expecting 4.40s from the guy. Like we know he's got that like long speed. He's a bigger guy for sure. But like running in the 4.5s, he checked all the boxes that like you want from a testing perspective. So I like that. We had the same top 4 just in separate order here, and then I'm sure we'll start to deviate as we get farther in, which is just a testament to this rookie class. It's just like it's such a hodgepodge. Oh no, that's not the one actually.
No. Okay, so the 105 is not going to be Luther Burden, which I thought was Aiden's guy. So who are you taking at the 105?
I do love Burden. I like Egbuka. This is like by far my favorite wide receiver prospect in this class. In terms of floor, I don't think any of these wide receivers come even close to Egbuka's floor. Like this is an ARSB/JSN type clone where I think he's going to slot into the NFL right away. Absolute beast against zone. The dude had multiple 1,000-yard seasons, 10-plus tutty seasons at Ohio State. Like he produced at the highest level in a room with some absolute dogs. Like he was producing with Marvin. He was producing with all of these guys. Jeremiah Smith this year. So it's like, I just love the production. I love the athletic profile. I don't think he screams like, high-end wide receiver one, but I think the floor is just so safe with this guy. Because I think like you start getting into the players here where it's, a bit more of a toss-up. Like, do you go for a tight end? Do you gamble on one of the Colorado guys? You got Luther Burden too, like you mentioned. It's got some really nice tape. But in terms of floor, like I love Egbuka. I think this guy's tape's phenomenal. The stats back it up. And he's probably going to go somewhere like the 20s too. Like imagine the Texans getting someone like him, or like, man, there's a couple of spots, like a handful of mocks don't even have him in the first round, but there's no chance this guy makes it out of the first round. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah, let's see. His consensus big board ranking right now is 29th, but he is not actually showing up in the first round over on Mock Draft Database.
He'll go in the first round.
Yeah, I would think so. Teams usually want that 5th year of wide receiver control with the option. If I'm looking at like potential fits, who needs like a good slot receiver. I mean, look, he's been caught to Robert Woods. He could fit well with the Rams, right? If you put him in there and 3 wide receiver sets, I think he would look pretty good. The Chargers, I think, could work. They need a slot wide receiver. I think the Raiders could work for sure. I'm trying to think where else. Cowboys for sure. The Cowboys need as many receivers as they can get.
You've got the Packers, but they have a million guys that kind of do the same thing already.
Yeah, I don't love him on the Packers. Maybe like the Cardinals might be redundant too.
The Texans would be fun, even though they already traded for Kirk. Egbuka would be a ton of fun there.
Giants too. He could be a good fit on the Giants. Patriots for sure. I like him on the Rams or the Chargers.
Man, imagine if he falls to 31 to the Chiefs.
But they already have Rasheed who plays. I mean, maybe they kick Rasheed outside. He played outside in college, but we'll see. This one's tough, man, because Luther Burden is. I'm gonna let you draft Burden. I'm gonna let you do it. But I have been persuaded a bit more. Remember how I said I'm a Burden skeptic. I wasn't like a Burden hater. I was just
he does more than you think. He does more than you think.
Yes, But again, at 106, if I truly was on the clock between these picks and it's between Luther Burden or Trayveon Henderson, I'm going to take Trey Henderson, the one half of the ridiculous duo that Ohio State had last year at running back. And I think someone like Trayveon Henderson, it's really easy to get enamored with who he is as a player because he's really fast. He's a really good pass catcher. And he's been good each year at Ohio State. Like, he's been productive in a huge college program. And, when you look at his historical comps, like James Cook, J.K. Dobbins, another Ohio State guy. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a little bit riskier because, maybe his game doesn't translate. Maybe an NFL team doesn't necessarily know how to use him. But he would look really good playing for the Broncos, right? As a pass-catching running back. I just think this guy has game-breaking speed. And I think teams are going to see what the Jahmyr Gibbs situation was like and what that could do to an offense and supercharge it. And I think Trayveon Henderson has an outside chance to land in the first round. And if he does that with his profile, he's going to be really hard to pass up at the 106. So I'm in on Henderson. I like Henderson more over Judkins. But what are your thoughts on Henderson? Where do you see him going?
Yeah, I lean Henderson over Judkins too. I think they're both really talented. Both will be gone by the end of the second round. But the pass catching, like you mentioned, like it like you have to be able to cast patches in the NFL these days, and Henderson absolutely has that up on him. And then the speed too. The guy's faster. Like we saw like what he did in the national championship, taking that screen house to the house like before halftime. It was like you blinked and this dude was absolutely fucking gone. I was like, oh my god, like that's phenomenal. Like you want game breakers, you want guys that can score at any touch at any point on the field. So I like Henderson there as well. That's actually where I have him too.
I think it's just a no-brainer. In terms of fits, again, if the Raiders don't take Jeanty, the Raiders could take him. Even though Miami does not need a running back, they're always in. I think the Cowboys could be a good fit. The Browns need a running back for sure if they're going to let Nick Chubb walk, so that could make sense. The Bears for sure as well. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely do think all those teams are in play for Henderson. I think if you do take Henderson at the 106, though, you may have to deal with the fact that maybe he's not that full-time running back that you want him to be, especially out of the gates. He's used more as maybe like a compliment. But the guy's so explosive and he's an adept pass catcher that I think you should be able to get away with a 106 with Henderson.
Yeah, I think so, too.
All right, Burden at the 107?
Yeah, let's do Burden here. I could be talked into Warren there too. But I really like Luther Burden, and I think it's just because he reminds me of DJ Moore. Like, just absolutely a ton. The guy is such a beast with the ball in his hands. He's not the biggest A-dot guy, but I don't think he's the screen merchant that a lot of NFL Twitter tags him to be. I think this year was just an absolute like gross run out in terms of that offense. Like that offense just sucked. But this guy can win downfield. He's got late hands. He's good at contested catch situations. Not the biggest guy. I think he's what is he? 5'11", 6 foot. He's not that big.
6 foot 206. He's got that like kind of Jamar Chase build. That's a good build for a wide receiver. So, a little bit more stocky. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely not tiny by any means. But I really like him. I think the tape is really fun with this guy. But like the thing that I just keep coming back to every single time I watch him is just like the yak. Like this guy is such just like a knack for space, like the ball in his hands, and he just has so much wiggle and elusiveness with the ball in his hand. So yeah, like DJ Moore, I just see so much DJ Moore in this guy in terms of the size, the hands, the speed, the yak. We'll see where he goes. Where's he going right now? I don't think he's a round one guy.
He's not in the consensus mock drafts right now. He's 31 on consensus mock draft boards. Okay. I think the Texans could take a swing at Luther Burden for sure. The Rams for sure could take a swing. Raiders, basically any team that needs a wide receiver, I think would be keen to add Luther Burden, even though he projects more as a slot only type player at this point.
Which is fine. But like he could play outside, but the size doesn't profile great. He's definitely more successful on the interior.
You could build an entire package of plays around his ability with the ball in the hands, with the ball in his hands. He's dynamic, man. He forces a shit ton of missed tackles. He's excellent against zone coverage. He's a really good separator, and he's fine against separating on man coverage too. He just had a really down year this year after having just the most insane sophomore season. And he had a down year because his quarterback play was terrible. That offense was terrible, and they had him play like kind of exclusively outside. So I think we saw a tale of two, halves maybe, or like other sides of the coin. Luther Burden's production probably lives somewhere in the middle between his insane breakout and his kind of flat junior year. But yeah, at the 107, I think he's great. And then JJ Zachariason, his model has him as the top wide receiver in this draft class.
There's a lot to like. And you mentioned too, like this is an early declared 21-year-old. This guy turns 22 years old in December. This isn't someone that's been hanging around college for 5-6 years. So there's a lot to like, but I know he's one of the more controversial players in general, especially in the early rounds in terms of like how people feel, which makes sense. Like it's totally warranted.
108. I think I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take Shedeur.
Oh.
I'm going to take Shedeur. I know a lot of people might take Tyler Warren or Quinshon Judkins. Shedeur, at this point, the way that the mock drafts are looking, the consensus is him at 3 to the Giants. If you have been reading the tea leaves, it does appear that Cleveland is going to take a quarterback, and it does appear that Shedeur would be happy to play with the Browns. I've seen a lot of people do some hopium that this would be a great fit for him, considering Kevin Stefanski's worked with pocket passer, smart, cerebral, tough quarterbacks before and has gotten a lot out of them. Shedeur is very different than Cam Ward. He does not have the arm. He does, I wouldn't say have the athletic ability, but Shedeur is tough as nails. He's always trying to make a play like Cam in that sense, but he's a lot more of like processing, get the ball out quick type quarterback. Think of your like Brock Purdy's of the world. That's more like what Shedeur's game is. High-end comp for me is like a Dak Prescott at like the high end of what Shedeur can be.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of haters. I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan of him. I'm not a big fan of either of the quarterbacks at the top of this draft, really, from a fantasy perspective. But at the 108, I'm going to take a swing at quarterback. This guy's going to at least get 2 to 3 years. He's going to be billed as the savior of the Browns. He's cost controlled. He's not Deshaun Watson. He's going to have a pretty long run out to figure it out. And again, if you hit on a quarterback, it makes everything much easier.
Yeah, you're set.
Yeah, it's so much easier. So yeah, I think Shedeur is a good pick at 108, even though I don't know how good of a fantasy producer he's going to be. He's not going to rush for much, but yeah, I just feel like it's a good pick for me. But what are your thoughts on Shedeur at 108?
Yeah, it's about where I have him too. It's just hard to say. Like, I don't know where he's going to go. Similar to Burden, like I think like even more so in NFL circles, like people are very split about how they feel about Shedeur, just in terms of like the play, the person, and really everything around him. But, uber accurate. I think the completion percentage was like over 70%. Good pocket QB, pretty limited rushing upside too, like you mentioned, which he's actually pretty quick. He just doesn't really use it. Like maybe there is some more untapped rushing potential, and he just wasn't asked to do much of it in college. But I think at 8, that's a good call. Landing spot's really going to be huge here because I think he's either going to go like pretty early in the first round or like he could take a slide into round 2.
I think he's going to go in the first 3 picks. I think that's happening. I'd be surprised.
I think so too. But like, once you get into the teens or the 20s, it's like we got our guy. We're not picking a QB, but I wouldn't be like overly shocked if he did slide that late. But yeah, to your point, the Giants do feel like they continue to get connected to Shedeur, which I'd be pretty stoked with, man. Him and Neighbors would be really fun for fantasy purposes. So I like it here at 8. And if you're picking at 8, you just made playoffs. You probably already got a pretty good roster. You add another QB maybe if you don't even need it. And then you just got, more trade bait at that point, which is pretty cool. All right.
109. Who you got?
Let's do Warren. Let's do Warren. This guy's really interesting. Because you look at his first 3 years at Penn State, and the guy really didn't do much. And then you look at his 4th year, just absolutely exploded, man. 100 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. The guy was just an absolute force to be reckoned with. In tight end premium, like this is a guy that I'm fine taking a swing with, especially at this point in the draft too. This is, again, that you made the semifinals here in your league. You're picking at the 9 spot. You've probably got a pretty decent roster, and I just think there's so much to like here with Tyler Warren. I think where he's getting mocked is actually pretty funny too. Just given like the number he wears, he's getting mocked right now to the Indianapolis Colts, and like, if you squint hard enough, like, you can see Dallas Clark in number 44 there. It's like, it's really not far off. Just like Midwest boy, just runs tough as nails, sticky hands. Not overly shifty, but like the guy is super athletic for his size. So many contested catches. We saw that one too in the college football playoff, just, mossing people. I think that was against Boise State. Yeah, that sweet touchdown catch. So this guy's gonna be involved at the NFL level. Just an absolute beast, decent blocker too. It's not like this is, a Harold Fannin type where it's like, like he can only make his money, like being a receiver. This is a guy that's probably going to play 80-90% of the snaps and, make his money both blocking and catching. But how do you feel about Warren? Would you take him this high or kind of?
Yeah, I think Warren's a first-round guy in tight end premium. I think he's definitely, this is a good spot. I think 108, 109 for sure with Warren. Warren's going to be on the field 70% of the snaps. This guy is a blocking tight end. He's a receiving tight end. He's more in the mold of Gronkowski and George Kittle.
Yep.
I think Warren is a really interesting prospect. They even give him handoffs out of the backfield. They have him run Wildcat. He played quarterback in high school. Super fascinating and athletic player. In terms of like landing spots, again, like the Chargers will be a popular one. The Bears, if they want to do like a weird 2 tight end muck it up type situation.
I hope
consensus is the Colts. I don't think he's going to be a Colt.
I don't think
but
so
it's
either.
It could happen. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a team, I think the Seahawks are a sleeper at the 18th pick.
That'd
They just
be fun.
brought in Clint Kubiak. I think they want to run the ball. They want to have like a mini San Francisco type offense, and you can't do the San Francisco offense without your George Kittle, right? So
Yeah.
I think Warren's definitely in play for the Seahawks, and I think that'd be an exciting pick for Warren if he landed there.
Yeah, I forget if you said the Chargers too, but if he somehow slid
The
down
Chargers.
to 22, I think the Chargers are going to take a tight end regardless of like which
Yeah,
one is there.
we'll talk about this.
So if Warren got to 22, I think Harbaugh's sprinting up the guard, man.
110, one of my favorite players on the board, Iowa running back, Kaleb Johnson. If you like watching Ashton Jeanty and you want to watch somebody who's built very similar to him, can make a ton of people miss and is just a little bit slower, Kaleb Johnson is like the exact type of running back that you would watch in this instance. I don't know, man. He just has some of the most fun tape I've seen of the running backs in this class. He's 6'1", 224 pounds, built like a goddamn brick house. That is a prototypical size of a running back. He's mocked right now in day 2, day 3. He's probably going to be a second-round pick. I'd be surprised if he wasn't. His comps, this is from J.J. Zacharyson, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, and Daniel Thomas. I don't know who Daniel Thomas is, but I know who Le'Veon Bell and James Conner are. He did run a 4.5, so he is a little bit slower. So that's just something you have to keep in mind with Kaleb Johnson. But I don't really care. The guy, again, makes people miss. He's big as hell. And, again, he was good as a rusher and as a receiver. He had 22 receptions for 188 yards at Iowa, and you're like, okay, that's not much. They only threw the ball 260 times. So it's a pretty good receiving profile considering the context of his team. And he was the entire offense. This is like the ground and pound offense in the Big Ten. Kaleb Johnson was the offense. I love when players are able to do that in college.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think Caleb's a no-brainer for me. But I know Judkins is on the board. Loveland's on the board. Travis Hunter's on the board. Do you think Johnson's a good pick here at the 110?
I do. And I hate coming back to it every time. Like, it's so landing spot specific with like how I feel about these guys, because it's like part of me leans Judkins over Johnson, but like Johnson's clearly got the production. I think James Conner is like a comp on the nose, a little slower, but just tackle breaking machine, uber productive. So I do like him here. Yeah, like this range gets tricky. Because again, like this is where you're playing with house money, as pick 110, 111, 112. It's like you can get a little greedy. You're probably sporting a pretty good roster already. So like a lot of this is going to be a lot clearer once we get landing spots. But it's hard to watch Kaleb Johnson's tape. Like he is very similar to Ashton Jeanty. I just think he's not nearly as athletic. Like he's a little slower, but in terms of like just bouncing off dudes, these like long runs where he's just like running in, I wouldn't say slow motion, but like it kind of looks like slow motion compared to Jeanty, but it's like very similar tape, which is interesting. So he's gonna be a fun pick, man. This running back class is so fun. We're gonna talk about probably another half dozen by the time we round up the second round.
You gonna take Judkins here?
I think I'll take your guy. I'm gonna take Hunter here.
Yeah.
So
the rich get richer, man.
Yeah.
I'm so annoyed that a team that potentially won their dynasty league just gets to throw a dart at Travis Hunter, who, if he turns out to be a full-time receiver, should be the number 2 pick in this draft. Next to Jeanty, in my opinion.
It's like, it's such a risk reward play here. Which is why like you can't do it early. Like if you're missing playoffs, like you can't gamble on a guy that might be a 50% offensive player or maybe even less. Like cornerbacks are starting to get paid now. Like, he's pretty damn good at corner too. You got guys making 20, 30 million now. It's like there is money on that side of the ball. That's the indication, is that's kind of the primary position. He's going to play offense for sure. Like we absolutely know that, but like it's hard to rationalize taking him early unless we get any type of clarity. But I think at the 11 or 12, like this is a gamble you're allowed to take, because
such a slam dunk.
The wide receiver tape, it actually is, it is quite fascinating.
It's
with
amazing.
Him. Like,
yeah, it's
very
amazing.
like he gives me some Garrett Wilson vibes in terms of
for sure.
Like the quick twitch,
for sure.
Like especially in the red zone, like some of the like goal line routes just shakes you so quick. So it's it's a guy that I don't love personally, but man, if he ends up playing like primarily wide receiver and you get him at the end of the first round, like it's going to be highway robbery. So and I think this, like, where would you be taking him? I think this is roughly the range, but like would you take him earlier? Would you take him later? How do you feel?
Landing spot dependent. Like if he lands on the Patriots, are you really going to tell me the Patriots aren't going to play this guy as their primary
They're 1,000%
like,
playing a wide receiver.
Yeah, like so if he lands on the Giants, like I could see him doing the both thing. And I think, by the way, for the record, he's going to play both. I think he's going to try to play both.
He's going to try, at least year one,
so we'll
maybe
see.
year two. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. But man, like you're telling me the Patriots' whole thing is just Drake May. We got to build around Drake May, and then you get Travis Hunter in the building, and you don't play him with wide receiver. Like that doesn't make sense to me. No. But if it's the Giants, like that makes sense. Like you already have Malik Neighbors, you brought back Darius Slayton, you got Scam Dell. You have like a competent wide receiver room. Like you're not forced to play Hunter at wide receiver. Now they will, but it's not as like pressing to the development of a young QB potentially. So
I agree with that.
I mean, dude, if Hunter is in this range right here, this 4 to 6 range, if he's a Patriot,
I agree.
And then if it's like the Patriots are like, nah, we're gonna play him at receiver, he's in the top 4 in my opinion. Judkins, I think again, if you got someone like Judkins at the 12th overall pick, you crushed it.
Yeah,
I think you did a really good job.
Yeah.
Judkins is really he's built like a workhorse. His production is excellent. He produced at 2 different schools. He split time with Trayveon Henderson, and it kind of showed that maybe he might be an early down grinder and might not be a pass catcher, which could impact his ceiling. But at the 112, that's baked in. And this is somebody that could score 12, 13 rushing touchdowns in a season. He's just excellent around the goal line. He's tough as nails. He's gotten comp to Melvin Gordon, Trey Benson, Darius Geis in JJ Zacharyason's model. So again, not incredible outcomes, but at the 112, it's kind of a no-brainer for Judkins in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the pick that I would be making here too. He doesn't quite have like the speed, but like there's still so much wiggle with him. Like he snatches ankles left and right for a guy like his size, and he tested very well at the combine. I think he answered a lot of he ran in the 4.4 range, didn't he?
Yeah, he ran really well.
He tested faster than he looks on tape, which I think alleviated a lot of doubts and question marks that people had about him. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see where he goes. But yeah, if you get him at the 112, you just won your league. You're snagging a absolute stud day 2 running back. Yeah, I'd be feeling pretty good about that.
Consensus big board 50th overall. If the Raiders don't take Jeanty at 6, I would not be shocked if Chip Kelly in the second round was like, hey, let's get my guy Judkins to be our running back. So wouldn't be shocked if you were a Raider if Jeanty is not taken by the Raiders at 6 overall.
If they don't take Jeanty at 6, one of the Ohio State running backs will be taken with that pick in the second round by the Raiders. Like, there's zero doubt in my mind that they leave without one of those.